I'm 74 now. I live in a small apartment in Portland, Oregon, with a view of someone else's backyard. There's a cherry tree out there that blooms every April, and I watch it from my kitchen window while I make my coffee in the morning. It's quiet here. I've gotten used to quiet. Yesterday, my neighbor's grandson came by to help her move some furniture. I could hear them through the wall laughing, arguing a little about which way to angle the couch, then laughing again. The kid said something like, "Grandma, you're impossible." But the way he said it, you could tell he loved her. After they finished, they sat on her porch and ate sandwiches together for maybe an hour. I couldn't hear what they were saying anymore, just the low hum of two people who were comfortable with each other. I stood at my window with my coffee and watched the cherry tree and listened to that hum, and I thought about how I used to be good at being around people. Or at least I thought I was. I had friends once. I was married once. I had a brother I talked to every Sunday. But somewhere along the way, I stopped answering the phone, stopped showing up, stopped saying the thing that needed to be said. And now I'm here, 74 years old, listening to someone else's grandson through the wall. I've been thinking about how I got here. Not to this apartment. That part's easy to explain. I moved here in 2019 after I sold the house in Salem. But I mean here alone with this specific kind of silence that feels like it has weight to it. The kind where you can go 3 days without speaking out loud to another person and not even notice until you try to talk and your voice comes out rough. I grew up in Eugene. My father worked for the post office. My mother kept the house and volunteered at the church, though I don't think she believed in much of anything except keeping up appearances. I had one brother, Danny, 2 years younger. We shared a room until I was 16. We weren't particularly close, but we weren't enemies either. We just existed in the same space, the way siblings do. I was a quiet kid. Teachers used to write that on my report cards. "Thomas is very quiet." They didn't mean it as a compliment or a criticism. It was just a fact. I didn't speak up in class. I didn't get in fights. I didn't join clubs or try out for sports. I moved through school like water moves around a stone, finding the path of least resistance. My father used to say, "Pick your battles, Tommy." He'd say it when my mother complained about something he'd forgotten to do, or when Danny wanted to argue about whose turn it was to take out the trash. Pick your battles, like it was wisdom, like some battles weren't worth picking. And I guess I took that to heart more than I should have. I graduated high school in 1968. There was a war on, but I had flat feet and mild asthma, so I didn't go. A lot of guys I knew went. Some didn't come back. Some came back different. I stayed in Eugene and started working at a hardware store on Willamette Street. The owner, Mr. Gunderson, was a solid man who believed in showing up on time and not making excuses. I liked working for him. The job was predictable. Customers came in, needed a specific screw or a length of pipe or advice on fixing a leaky faucet, and you helped them. Then they left. Clean transactions, no lingering. I met Linda in 1971. She came into the hardware store looking for drawer pulls for a dresser she was refinishing. She had dark hair that she wore pulled back, and she smiled when she talked, even when she was just asking a practical question. I helped her find what she needed, and when she left, Mr. Gunderson looked at me and said, "You should have asked for her number," but I didn't. She came back 2 weeks later for sandpaper. This time, Mr. Gunderson wasn't there, so it was just me and Linda and the quiet hum of the fluorescent lights overhead. She asked if I knew anything about wood staining, and I did, so I told her. We talked for maybe 20 minutes. When she left, I still didn't ask for her number. The third time she came in, she wasn't buying anything. She just came in. She asked if I wanted to get coffee after my shift, and I said yes because it would have been stranger to say no. We got married in 1973. It wasn't a big wedding. Her parents and mine, Danny, a few friends from her work at the library. We rented a house on the east side of town, a small 2-bedroom with a yard that was mostly weeds. Linda wanted to fix it up. She had all these ideas: paint the kitchen yellow, build a garden bed along the fence, maybe get a dog. I said sure to all of it, but I didn't help much. I was working 6 days a week by then. Mr. Gunderson had made me assistant manager, and I felt like I owed him something. I felt like I needed to prove I was reliable. Linda painted the kitchen herself. She planted tomatoes and lettuce in the garden bed. We never got the dog. I don't think I was a bad husband exactly. I didn't cheat. I didn't drink too much. I didn't yell. I came home every night. I paid the bills. But I also didn't talk much. Linda would ask me how my day was, and I'd say fine or busy and not elaborate. She'd tell me about something that happened at the library, some patron who was rude, or a book she thought I'd like, and I'd nod and say, "Huh," and not ask any follow-up questions. She'd want to talk about things that made me uncomfortable. Money, mostly. Whether we could afford to take a vacation. Whether I liked my job, or if I ever thought about doing something else. Whether we should think about having kids. And I'd say, let's talk about it later, or I don't know, or whatever you think, because I didn't want to argue. I didn't want to say the wrong thing. I didn't want conflict. So we didn't talk, or we talked about safe things. The weather, what to have for dinner, whether we needed milk. In 1978, Linda got pregnant. I was 30 years old. I remember sitting in the bathroom with her while she looked at the test, and she started crying. Not sad crying, happy crying. And she turned to me and said, "Are you happy?" And I said yes, because I thought I should be. And maybe I was. I don't know. Mostly I felt afraid. We had a daughter. We named her Amy. She was small and red-faced, and she cried a lot. And I didn't know what to do with her. Linda seemed to know instinctively how to hold her, how to calm her, how to read what she needed. I felt like I was in the way, so I worked more. I'd leave early and come home late, and Linda would be on the couch with Amy asleep on her chest, and she'd look at me with this expression I couldn't quite read. Not angry, just tired. Disappointed maybe. I thought I was helping by staying out of the way. I thought I was being considerate. Amy grew up fast. That's what people always say. But it really did feel that way. One day she was a baby, and then she was 5 and starting kindergarten, and then she was 10 and joining soccer, and then she was 15 and barely speaking to me except when she needed a ride somewhere. I didn't go to most of her soccer games. I was working. Mr. Gunderson had retired, and I'd taken over as manager, and the job felt heavier than it used to. More responsibility, more problems to solve. And when I came home, I was tired. I didn't want to talk about how school was going or whether Amy needed help with her homework. I didn't want to mediate the little fights she and Linda would have about curfew or chores. I'd retreat to the TV or go work in the garage on projects I never finished. Linda tried for a long time. She'd suggest we do things together, go for a walk, see a movie, take Amy camping like we used to talk about. And I'd say sure, and then I'd find a reason why it wasn't a good weekend. Too much to do at the store? Too tired? Maybe next time? Eventually, she stopped suggesting things. Danny called every Sunday. He'd moved to Seattle in the early 80s, got a job in sales, married a woman named Carol. They had 3 kids. Danny would call and tell me about his life, what the kids were doing, where they'd gone on vacation, some argument he'd had with Carol's mother, and I'd listen and say, uh-huh, and that's good, and not offer much of my own. After a while, Danny started calling less, every other Sunday, then once a month, then just on holidays. I didn't call him back. I told myself I was busy. I told myself he was busy. I told myself we'd catch up next time. Linda asked for a divorce in 1996. Amy was 18 and about to leave for college. Linda sat me down at the kitchen table, the one we'd bought together 20 years earlier, the one with the wobbly leg I'd never fixed, and she said, "I can't do this anymore." I asked her what she meant, even though I knew. She said, "I feel like I've been living with a stranger for 20 years. I've tried, Thomas, I've tried so hard, but you won't talk to me. You won't let me in. I don't even know who you are." I didn't argue. I didn't ask her to stay. I just said, okay. She cried. I didn't. We sold the house and split everything down the middle. Linda moved to an apartment near the library. I moved to a smaller place on the west side. Amy went to college in California and called me once a month, if that. Our conversations were short, surface level. How's school? How's work? Okay, good, talk soon. I kept working, got promoted to regional manager for a while, overseeing 3 stores. It was more money but more stress, and I didn't like managing people. I didn't like the confrontations when someone wasn't doing their job or when 2 employees didn't get along. I'd avoid those conversations as long as possible, and then when I finally had them, I'd do it badly, too abrupt, too detached. People didn't respect me. They did what I asked because I was the boss, but they didn't respect me. I stepped down from that position in 2005, went back to managing a single store. It felt like a relief. Danny stopped calling altogether around then. I'd see photos on Christmas cards, his kids graduating, getting married, having kids of their own. I was an uncle and then a great uncle, and I'd never met most of them. I thought about calling, I thought about reaching out, but I didn't know what I'd say. Too much time had passed. It felt easier to just let it be. My mother died in 2007. My father had died 10 years earlier. The funeral was small. Me, Danny, Carol, a few cousins I hadn't seen in decades. Danny and I barely spoke. We stood next to each other during the service, and afterward we shook hands and said we should stay in touch. But we didn't. I retired in 2014. I was 65. The company gave me a plaque and a cake. A few people I'd worked with for years said nice things. I drove home alone and put the plaque in a closet and ate a piece of the cake standing at the counter in my kitchen. I thought retirement would feel like freedom. I thought I'd have time to do all the things I'd been putting off. But I didn't have things I'd been putting off. I'd just been working. And now I wasn't, and the days felt very long. I tried to fill them. I'd go to the grocery store and take a long time walking the aisles. I'd go to the library and browse the new arrivals. I'd sit in coffee shops with a newspaper and watch people come and go. But I didn't talk to anyone. I didn't make friends. I didn't know how anymore. Amy visited once a year, maybe. She was married by then, living in San Diego, working as a nurse. She had a daughter, my granddaughter, Lily. I met Lily once when she was 2. Amy brought her up for a weekend, and I didn't know what to do with a 2-year-old. I felt awkward. I didn't know what to say. Lily cried when I tried to hold her, and Amy said, "It's okay, Dad. She's just shy around strangers." Strangers. That word hit me harder than it should have. After they left, I sat in my apartment and looked at the photos Amy had emailed me. Lily smiling, Amy smiling, and I thought about how I didn't really know my daughter anymore. I knew facts about her, where she lived, what she did for work, but I didn't know her, what made her happy, what kept her up at night, whether she was okay. I thought about calling her, but what would I say? Sorry I wasn't there, sorry I didn't try harder. That felt too big, too heavy, and maybe too late, so I didn't call. Danny died in 2017. Carol called to tell me, a heart attack, quick, he didn't suffer. The funeral was in Seattle. I drove up. It rained the whole time. Carol hugged me and cried on my shoulder, and I stood there stiff and didn't know what to do with my hands. Danny's kids were there, all grown now, with their own kids. They introduced themselves politely, the way you do with a distant relative you barely remember. I stayed for the service and the reception, and then I drove back to Oregon and didn't talk to any of them again. I thought about all the Sundays Danny had called, all the times I'd half listened and not called back, all the years that had stacked up into a silence I couldn't undo. And I thought I should have tried harder, I should have picked up the phone. But I didn't, and now he was gone. That's when it started to feel real. Not just the loneliness, I'd been lonely for years, but the permanence of it. The understanding that some things don't get second chances. Some people leave and they don't come back, and you don't get to explain or apologize or try again. I started thinking about all the people I'd let drift away, friends from high school I'd lost touch with, co-workers I'd eaten lunch with for years but never really talked to, Linda, Amy, Danny, all the small moments I'd avoided because they felt uncomfortable or unnecessary or like they could wait. And now I'm 74, and there's no one left to call. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, this won't happen to me. You're thinking, I'm different, I'm close with my family. I'm good at staying in touch. I'm not someone who avoids things. Maybe that's true. Maybe you're better at this than I was. But I want to tell you something. I didn't think it would happen to me either. I didn't wake up one day and decide to lose everyone I cared about. It happened slowly. So slowly I didn't notice. One missed phone call, one conversation I didn't have. One time I said later, and then forgot, and then another, and another, until later became never. You think you have time, you think there'll be a better moment. You think, I'll reach out after this busy season at work, after the holidays, after things settle down. You think, they know I care. You think, we're fine, a little distance is normal. And maybe it is normal, maybe everyone feels this way. But normal doesn't mean it's okay. I'm thinking about Linda now, about all the nights she tried to talk to me and I brushed her off because I was tired or because I didn't want to argue or because I didn't know what to say. I thought I was keeping the peace. I thought I was being easy to live with. But what I was really doing was building a wall, one brick at a time, until she couldn't reach me anymore. She wanted to know me. She wanted me to know her. And I was too afraid. Afraid of saying the wrong thing. Afraid of conflict. Afraid of being vulnerable. So I said nothing, and she left. And I don't blame her. I think about Amy, about how I could have gone to her soccer games, how I could have asked about her day and actually listened, how I could have shown up, not just physically, but emotionally, how I could have told her I loved her more than twice a year. But I didn't. I told myself I was giving her space. I told myself she didn't need me hovering. I told myself she knew. But how would she know? I never said it, I never showed it, and now she's a stranger. A polite stranger who sends Christmas cards and calls on my birthday and asks how I'm doing in the same tone you'd use with someone you barely know, because that's what I am to her, someone she barely knows. I think about Danny, about all those Sundays, about how easy it would have been to just call him back, to ask him questions, to care about the answers, to tell him about my life, even if my life was boring, to just be his brother. But I didn't. I let the calls taper off. I let the distance grow, and now he's gone and I can't fix it. You might be thinking, it's not too late for you. You could still reach out. You could still try. And maybe you're right. Maybe I could call Amy tomorrow. Maybe I could tell her I'm sorry. Maybe I could try to build something now, in whatever time I have left. But the truth is I probably won't, because it feels too hard, because I don't know where to start, because the gap is so wide now that I can't imagine how to cross it. And that's the thing I want you to understand. It gets harder the longer you wait. The silence gets louder. the distance gets wider, and eventually it starts to feel permanent. Like this is just how things are now. Like it's too late to change. But it's not too late for you. Not yet. If there's someone you've been meaning to call them today. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Today. If there's something you've been meaning to say it. Even if it's awkward. Even if it's hard. Even if you don't know how they'll respond. If there's a relationship that's drifting, grab it. Pull it back. Show up. Be present. Be uncomfortable if you have to. Because I'm telling you, as someone who has lost everyone, that the discomfort of the conversation is nothing compared to the weight of the silence that comes after. You think you're avoiding conflict. You think you're keeping the peace. You think you're making things easier. But you're not. You're just delaying the pain. And when it finally comes, and it will come, it'll be so much worse. Because it won't just be the loss of the person, it'll be the loss of all the time you didn't use, all the things you didn't say, all the moments you didn't have because you were waiting for a better time. And there is no better time. There's just time, and it runs out. I used to think that staying quiet was a strength, that not rocking the boat was noble, that avoiding confrontation made me easy to be around. But it didn't. It made me forgettable. It made me absent. It made me alone. And I can't get that time back. I can't go back to 1985 and go to Amy's soccer game. I can't go back to 1993 and have the hard conversation with Linda that might have saved our marriage. I can't go back to any of those Sundays and actually talk to Danny, really talk to him. I can only sit here in this apartment and look out at someone else's cherry tree and listen to someone else's family through the wall and know that I chose this, not all at once, but in 1,000 small moments where I chose silence over connection, comfort over courage, later over now. I don't think my life was a waste. I worked hard, I was reliable, I didn't hurt anyone, at least not on purpose. I did what I was supposed to do, but I also didn't love anyone the way I could have. I didn't let anyone love me. I didn't build anything that lasted. And now I'm here, 74 years old, alone, listening to other people's lives through the wall. You don't have to end up here. You still have time. Not infinite time. None of us do. But enough. Enough to call. Enough to show up. Enough to say the thing you've been holding back. Enough to choose differently than I did. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm not trying to make you feel guilty. I'm just telling you the truth. The truth I didn't see until it was too late. The people you love won't be here forever. And neither will you. And the time you're waiting for, the perfect moment, the right words, the day when things are less busy, that time doesn't exist. There's only now, and now is already slipping away. I know you're tired, I know you're busy, I know it feels like there's always something more urgent, some deadline, some responsibility, some reason why today isn't the day. But I'm telling you, from the other side of all those tomorrows, that nothing was more urgent than the people I lost. Nothing was more important than the relationships I let go. And I didn't see it. I didn't see it until I was sitting in a funeral home looking at my brother's casket. I didn't see it until my daughter called me a stranger. I didn't see it until I woke up one morning and realized I could disappear and no one would notice for days. Don't wait until you're 74 and alone to realize that the quiet life you thought you were living was just a slow fade into nothing. Don't wait. Pick up the phone, send the message, have the conversation, show up, be messy, be awkward, be real. Because I promise you, the discomfort of trying is nothing compared to the weight of the silence when it's too late. I'm not asking you to change your whole life. I'm not asking you to become someone you're not. I'm just asking you to try, to reach out, to say something, to choose connection over comfort. Just once, today, right now, before it's too late, because it will be too late, someday, for all of us. And when that day comes, you won't regret the things you said. You won't regret the times you tried. You won't regret the moments you showed up. Even when it was hard, you'll only regret the silence, the waiting, the chances you didn't take. I know, because I'm living with that regret right now, and I'll carry it with me until I'm gone. But you don't have to. You still have time.